voter ID. We're a voter ID state in Kansas, but in a lot of other places they're not. And when people try to bring the bills, they fight us. I mean, you have to have an ID to get on an airplane. You got to have an ID to, buy stuff, certain things, take a train, take a bus. But for some reason, voting is not important enough to require an ID.
We're here at the 2026 annual meeting of ALEC in Orlando, Florida. I'm with Pat Proctor, state legislator from Kansas. Tell me all the hats you wear here at ALEC.
Yeah.
You're going through the list.
So I joined ALEC right when I got in the legislature 6 years ago, and it's just been a great journey. I'm the task force chair for Federalism, Homeland Security, and International Relations Task Force. I'm also the subcommittee chair for elections in our new Process and Procedure Task Force.
And you also are running for another office.
Yes, I'm running for Kansas Secretary of State. So,
which will have a lot of issues regarding elections.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
How will what you've learned here sort of apply if you get that higher office?
Yeah, well, right now in Kansas, I'm the chair of the House Elections Committee, and I'll tell you just about every idea that I've run through my committee and gotten into law in Kansas is an idea I got right here working with the Honest Elections Project and also with that subcommittee. So just a great resource for state legislators from all over the country to get together and share notes. And what's great is a lot of times it's, hey, don't do this, because they found out the hard way that, in a court or in on the floor, in debates, that this works, that doesn't work. So, you hear at ALEC all the time that the states are 50 laboratories of democracy. Well, they can do the experiment, and I can benefit from their knowledge.
I mean, it would seem, at least to this outside observer, that election reform you hope would be bipartisan in certain ways, so that no one thinks the other side is getting the best of them. Is that necessarily the case? Or we get really politicalized?
Unfortunately, it is not, and you're seeing it play out across the country. We voter ID. We're a voter ID state in Kansas, but in a lot of other places they're not. And when people try to bring the bills, they fight us. I mean, you have to have an ID to get on an airplane. You got to have an ID to, buy stuff, certain things, take a train, take a bus. But for some reason, voting is not important enough to require an ID. We've done a lot here at ALEC in model policy that I've taken to my state on stopping foreign influence in our elections and stopping foreign money from getting into our elections. And, I'll be darned if the other side didn't fight us tooth and nail on the floor trying to stop it. And I don't understand that. I'm a Kansan. I feel like Kansans should be deciding our elections, not Swiss billionaires, but apparently the other side doesn't agree.
I remember going into a task force and hearing that presentation. Have we been able to stop it?
But yeah, in Kansas, we banned foreign money in constitutional amendment campaigns. I was just at the Honest Elections Project Academy, which was right before ALEC, and discovered that we've only started because they can still do door knocking, they can still do get out the vote. There's still a lot of things they can do with that money. So based on what I learned here, I'm going to go back to my state and we're going to try to ban all the other activities that are related to elections being done with foreign money.
Can they fund directly a candidate, or is this through some of the shadow groups?
There's a federal law that says that if you're running for office, whether you run for dog catcher or president of the United States, you can't take a single cent of foreign money. But there's no law that says that they can't participate in constitutional amendment campaigns unless you make it a law in your state. And there's also all these nonprofits, 501c3s and C4s that can take all the foreign money they want. There's no reporting requirement, and then they can come right up to the line of saying vote for or vote against. You'll see ads on TV that says, call Senator so and so and tell him what a dirtbag he is, or tell him to do this or tell him to do that. A lot of that's foreign money. And they're not saying don't vote for him. They're just saying all the reasons they don't like him. We got to get a handle on that. And when you hear people talk about dark money, that's what they're talking about.
Does it tend to go to one side or the other, to the Dems over the Gs over the
it
Rs?
does seem like foreign billionaires have a really big interest in backing Democrat causes. I'm not sure why that is, but so it is more on one side of the aisle than the other. Something I've done in my committee in the House is we've been investigating Act Blue, which is this Democrat fundraising platform. They have all these little $2 donations that don't have to be reported in a lot lot of states, and we've found out that like a lot of those people don't know they're donating because their name's being used without their knowledge.
I know a little bit about that.
Yeah.
There's also the tip button.
Exactly.
If you don't uncheck it.
Yeah, exactly. But a lot of it is money laundering, frankly, is what we think is going on. They call it smurfing. I don't know why they call it that, but it's using somebody's name without their knowledge to attribute a donation to. And, you know, our Democrat governor, our Democrat congresswoman from the Kansas City area, both of them got money that way. And I like I said, I think that Kansas elections should be decided by Kansas voters, not by Swiss billionaires.
When you just take a look at the election reform, how can it pass the Kansas legislature? Is there enough there that you have enough control over the House and the Senate? Or
so we have a supermajority in both houses, but the problem with Republicans is you get 3 Republicans in a room, you got 5 opinions. So sometimes we have a hard time getting ourselves together and trying to override vetoes because we've got a Democrat governor. But former ALEC chairman Ty Masterson is running for governor, and God willing, he'll get elected, and we'll be able to get some things through that we weren't able to get an override vote on last year and previous years.
Ty has a personality that can perhaps bring some sides together. You never know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's an incredible conservative, small government, all the small government, federalism, all the things that ALEC stands for, he's been doing in the state of Kansas, and I'm excited. I hope he's our next governor.
Let's dig down into the academies again.
Yes,
what
sir.
was something in particular that you learned in an academy that you're able to bring back to your state?
Yeah, well, I already talked about the Honest Election Project Academy, but international relations, we've also done some academies. A few years ago, we did a China Tech Threat Academy, and we found out that a lot of the technology that our law enforcement is using and that our state government is using is Chinese technology, and it's got all kinds of Trojan horse technology in it to siphon off personal data for Kansans. And so I left that academy scared as hell, and I went back to my state, and we passed a lot of laws to drone technology now has to be American. A lot of our state computers that are from China are being phased out and replaced with American technology. So I would have never even known that was a thing if I hadn't gone to an ALEC Academy. It's such great programs, and I wish there were like 2 or 3 of me so I could go to more of them.
Regarding the Chinese technology, people don't realize how they're grabbing our data.
Oh yeah, and something.
What did you learn out? What particularly did you learn about?
Well, they have cornered the market on drone technology, and law enforcement agencies, they buy drones to do a kind of monitoring crime scenes and things like that. And meanwhile, they don't know that inside that drone and inside the software to download the video is Trojan horse technology that's piping everything that they do back to China. Something else that we've heard a lot about is foreign land ownership. And in my international relations task force, we've done some work with this. They buy land close to military facilities so that they can monitor the facilities. In northwest Kansas, they sold below cost telecommunications technology to a lot of municipalities there. By the way, that's in radio range of missile silos on the other side of the border. So, the concern is that they're going to use that technology to jam if we ever have a military conflict with them. I'm concerned about it. We've got to stop it.
And it's a story that you don't hear a lot about.
Exactly.
Until it's almost too late.
I know. Yeah.
I imagine you don't have TikTok on your phone.
I do not have TikTok on my phone, especially after going to the China Tech Threat. It's a shame because a lot of younger people, that's how they're getting their news, and what they don't understand is all those algorithms come from China. And I got the opportunity, Combating Anti-Semitism Movement's a great partner for the International Relations Task Force. They sponsored a legislative trip, and so last week I was actually in Israel, and there was a lot of discussion about how they're losing the PR war, over their war in Gaza to stop Hamas, and it's because China is determining what our kids are seeing on TikTok through these algorithms, and they're feeding them a steady stream of kind of the Hamas propaganda. I walked through the Nova Music Festival site, 400 kids killed. I've never seen any of that in the American media. I've never seen, and my daughter's got TikTok. It never shows up on her TikTok. That's a story that people need to know about, is, just how horrific the things that this organization they're trying to stop has done.
Well, appreciate your leadership on all
thank
this.
You. Thank you.
Pat Proctor, who has been in the state legislature for 6 years, now he's decided he wants a new job at the Secretary of State. I'm sure that I hope you still remain a firm member of ALEC when you become Secretary of State.
Yeah, when I'm Secretary of State, I'm going to be get the Ghost of Legislators Past membership, or whatever they call it. I'm going to keep coming here because just great policy ideas come out of this every year.
Best of luck on your election.
Thank you so much.
From Orlando, Florida, I'm Jay Hamilton here at the 2026 annual ALEC meeting.